glad you came back to us. And I'm glad to be back too. I'm so rested and ready to go again, so be careful, all right? You know, I take vacations whenever I need to lighten up. When you see me starting to take life too seriously, just kick me out the door and they don't come back until you've lightened up. That's the first rule on the spiritual path, is together, lighten up. If you don't have that, you'll never get the rest. That's the most important part of the spiritual path. You know, people often ask me, why do you tell jokes once in a while during your messages? Duh, so that we can all together lighten up. So I came back with a short story. A priest, a nun, and a rabbi go into a bar. It's already funny, right? And the bartender looks at them and says, what is this, some kind of joke? Okay, you don't get it. A priest, a nun, and a rabbi go into a bar. If you'll get it at 3 in the morning, but don't call me, all right? Michael and I had a great time. We just wanted to see some pine trees and green, and so we traveled around the northern part of Arizona. And we ended up in Sedona, where we usually end up. And you know, Sedona is the New Age capital of the world. There's a psychic on every street corner. And so I thought, well, what a great opportunity to come back and talk about the difference between New Age, New Thought, and Unity. Because people use them interchangeably. And there's a distinct difference between the three. Even though all of us here probably feel like we're a part of all of them, we really need to be clear what the difference is. And so if you've taken my Unity Basics class, you'll know the difference already. And excuse my voice, for some reason I brought back a husky inside my voice, but that's all right. Anyway, the big thing about New Age, and let's start with New Age, because everything is called New Age anymore. And New Age is just a mixture of all kinds of philosophies and fads. Is that me? But who did that? It was you. I know it wasn't me. I think I need to go on vacation. So the New Age movement is a mixture of philosophies and fads and the paranormal. You know, all things that are outside of ourselves. Astrology, numerology, going to psychics. Nothing wrong with that. We all love to dabble in it. But it's constantly going to things outside of yourself. And there's all kinds of philosophies like reincarnation. And people ask sometimes, does Unity teach reincarnation? Well, our founders believed in it, and most people in Unity believe in it, but we certainly don't. You don't have to believe in reincarnation to be a part of Unity. I like the guy who once said, I didn't believe in reincarnation in my last life, and I'm not going to believe in it in this life. It's your choice, totally your choice. So that's New Age. The big thing to remember, it's where all things you go to outside of yourself. I mean, I wear crystals, I love to go to a psychic now and then, I love to get my cards read, but that's all outside of me. Can't be totally relied upon. So then we go to New Thought. What does New Thought mean? Well, New Thought is a range of philosophies in many churches, like religious science, Christian science, and so on. And they believe three things. They have these three things in common. New Thought believes the divinity is within us. Not some man in the sky, but we are all divine by nature. In New Thought, we believe we all have access to the power, to the answers, to the divine. Where? Within us. We don't need those outer things. And mental science, that thoughts have creative power that go out to help us in creating our world. So the main thing about New Thought, it was all with the people back in the late 1800s, I get my directions mixed up, that started to say we don't need an outer authority. I've got it all within me. I don't need a priest, a nun, or a rabbi to go to. Ultimately, I'm here to put myself out of business. When you finally get that you've got it all within you, well, you really won't need me, but we still need each other, don't we? I need you. We need to come together to support each other. to strengthen that in each other. But ultimately, I'm here to put myself out of business. So what's the difference in unity? How is unity different from all these other New Thought churches? Well, the founders of unity were Christian. Therefore, unity has a Christian foundation. But I always like to say we're Christian and more, in that we welcome all people of all faiths and philosophies, and we honor all paths that lead to God. So some of the qualities of unity are, we search for the truth in all things. Even if it is some of those New Age things, we search for truth in all things. And we hope everyone feels comfortable coming here to unity. And we combine that mental science, and this is where we're really different. We combine mental science with the heart of Christian mysticism. So yes, we believe that the mind has power to create, but we also know the power of surrendering to the heart and allowing the divine to take over. Making it happen and letting go and allowing it. We have the head and the heart, that balance. And that's why more often when people come into unity, they put their hands to their heart and say, oh, it feels like I'm home. Because we have that feeling nature along with the intellectual, mental powers. Now, like New Thought, we believe the divinity lies within us all. We have creative power of the mind. We don't need any outer authority. But we also have that surrendering to grace. We have grace. That's what the Christian aspect has brought to it. Now, when I was in Sedona, we ran into some old friends because I used to live there, so I have friends there. And two wonderful, dear old friends. And we were talking to them, and the man especially is very logical. He totally comes from that mental reasoning. And he was telling me about decisions he's made in his life. And he said he always uses the Ben Franklin method. You know what that is? I hadn't heard of it before. But the Ben Franklin method is take a piece of paper and write pros on one side and cons on the other. And you'll tell when you're done what's the best decision to make through logic and reason. And I think I scared him when I looked at him and said, I don't think I've ever made a decision that made sense in my life. And he got a little terrified at that. I go right to my heart. And my heart tells me where to go when I listen. Because I believe in 1 Corinthians 1:25, which says, the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom. In other words, that message, that revelation through your heart, from your intuitive nature, is so much wiser than anything logic or reason can come up with. Because when we use our intellect, we're relying on past experience, or this happened to me before, I'm not doing that again. All the limiting thoughts come up, all the fears come up. This has been my experience. This is what the world teaches. And God is in your heart saying, go for it. Go for it. We can do this with no fear, with unlimited potential. You see the difference? Through intuition, it can be scary because people ask you, why are you doing that? And all you can say is, I don't know, I just know it's the right thing to do. And that scares people. It doesn't make any rational, logical sense. Now, Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, wrote a lot about intuition. He said intuition is an inner knowing without the resort to intellectual means. The wisdom of the heart. It's very much surer in guidance than the head. So he used that same heart math method. What's in your heart versus what's in your mind. When one trusts spirit and looks to spirit for understanding, a certain confidence in the invisible develops. This faith awakens the so-called sixth sense, intuition or divine knowing. Through the power of intuition, man or women have direct access to all knowledge and the wisdom of God. Wow. We have access to it all right here. Not up there. There's a place for that. But right here. We are made in God's image. Male and female, we are created. Meaning the masculine intellect, the rational masculine part of us, and the feminine intuitive part of us, that receptive nature. that receives those messages from the divine. And there's a place to go for both. Now, my friend trusts the logical more because he's a logical kind of person. I trust that intuitive part more because I tend to rely on my heart. Now, in Bible metaphysics, when we read the Bible, we look at what is every person, place, or thing in me. And then the Bible comes alive. What is Mary in me? Mary is my intuitive faculty. Mary is that part of me that knows I'm divine and gives birth to the Christ. Mary is in all of us. She's your intuitive, feminine nature, just waiting for you to give birth to the Christ. And all major decisions I've ever made have come from that intuition. My call to ministry, if I'd have done the pro and con thing, man, it would have bounced right off the charts. I wouldn't have even started. It made no sense. How was I going to accomplish that? How was I going to do that? And as soon as I made that decision, guess what? The whole universe shifted. Doors started to open. Things started to happen. And here I am today. Not through logic or reason. That made no sense. But our intuitive nature shows us the way, and the universe shifts to support us. Now, that doesn't mean that once you make a decision that everything is hunky-dory, rosy, peachy, perfect. Believe me, ministry has not always been an easy path for me, but it was for my soul growth. Every decision I ever make from my heart may not be 100% perfect, but it's always for my highest and best, for the soul growth that I'm needing at that moment. A great example of that, how things don't always turn out perfect, but they're right for you. I've bought a number of houses in my life because I've moved a lot. And the last house I bought in Tulsa, I knew as soon as I drove up. I didn't even have to go inside. As soon as I drove up, because I looked at many houses and no. I drove up to this house. Oh, this is my house. Now, it was an older house. It was a wreck. There were all kinds of things wrong with it. And everybody that advised me told me not to buy that house. But I drove to it, and I knew, oh, that's my house. And it turned out to be perfect for me because it had this backyard with all these trees, and I would come home and go out on my deck, and there were all these trees that would nurture me. Now, I had to constantly be fixing things in that house. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't rosy peachy, but it was the highest and best for my soul growth. See how that goes? When I married Michael, there was no doubt how perfect he was for me. No doubt at all. When I moved here to Green Valley, gosh, logic would have said, stay where you are. Everything's going great in Tulsa. What are you thinking of moving for? But my heart was saying, you need to go to Arizona. Why was that? And the more you trust and act on those decisions, the more that intuition comes through. The more it comes through. And it's different from your ego wanting. It's not your ego saying, I want this, I want that, I want that. It's those inner deep desires of your heart. The word desire, if you go to the root beginning of that word, the meaning of that word, it means from God, of God. Those deep desires of your heart that are for your highest good. Your heart will always lead you there on the right path. Now, there's many ways to use intuition. Protection. Anybody here you feel, oh, I shouldn't go there. Need to do something. This isn't right. That's your intuition. And it can work in the other way. We were driving up toward Flagstaff. It was interesting because there were some fires all around us, but we were never in any danger. And we drove up to Flagstaff, and big signs on the road, beware of wildfires. And we thought, what are we doing up here, you know? But yet all the traffic kept going, and we felt safe. It's going to be okay, and we were. And we went down into Sedona. They didn't have any fires, but all the smoke settled in Sedona. I felt bad for people that was their first time through there. But we were safe, we were fine the whole time we were there. Our intuition told us it was going to be okay. I went on the website this week and I looked up intuitive stories. And I found this great story that a woman had put on the internet. It was all about listening to your intuitive feelings. And she said back in April of 2012, After bidding on a property, she and her family had put an offer on property in a neighboring town, she suddenly, flat out decided she didn't want to move there. At the last minute, she backed out. Her family was upset with her. They were excited about living in that town. They wanted to go there. But her gut kept telling her, no, don't go there, don't go there. And there was nothing she could do or say to explain to her family why she suddenly changed her mind. The town was perfect, the home was lovely. She just felt it was wrong for some reason. So they settled on a home in their hometown, moved in June, and the kids started school in September. On December 14th, 2012, the unthinkable happened at Sandy Hook Elementary School. And her youngest would have been in this school on that day had she stayed that course. But her intuition said no, even though logic, her pro and con list, would have said move there. Her heart said no. So how do we hone that intuition? How do we make it sharper and better? Well, the first thing is to honor it, not to dismiss it. Oh, I got this feeling, but I'm just going to ignore it. To really honor when you get those feelings, either yes or no. Act on them. The second thing, equally important, let go of other people's opinions and judgments. I don't think I've ever made a decision in my life when somebody in my family or close friends would say to me, Ann Marie, you're crazy. Why are you doing that? That's ridiculous. I wish I had a dime for every time somebody told me that. But I still go with the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom. Always go with your heart. Focus on your heart over your head. How does my heart feel? What's it trying to say right now? And that's why instead of the Ben Franklin method, which is the pros and cons, I do the heart math method sometimes. The heart math method is to put the word head on top of the page and heart on the bottom of the page. And then your head tells you everything about why you should or shouldn't do something. No, this won't work. It's never worked in the past. I'm afraid. It's limited. Blah, blah. I can. I won't. I don't have enough money. And then you go and listen to what your heart has to say. And your heart will always speak without fear. Whether it wants to do it or not, it will never be about fear. And if it's to move forward, it'll always say, go for it. Piece of cake, we can do this. Your heart is expanded, unlimited, and fearless. Just don't listen to what your friends and family want to tell you when you make that decision. And then involve your body. What is your body saying to you? Are you tightening up? Are you resisting it for some reason? Or are you relaxed, at ease with it? Are you tired? Is your body saying you need a rest? You need to go lighten up? Or is it relaxed? And then watch for signs. You know, the world is constantly a mirror. It's yelling at us. Everything on our face is screaming at us, showing us the way. We just have to watch for the signs. The divine speaks to us in so many ways. Through other people, through trees, nature, animals. And we can hear it through other people, through music, TV, whatever. But those gut feelings, that's where you have to really, really listen. Remember the Wizard of Oz? Follow the yellow brick road. Remember that? Follow the yellow brick road. What do you think the yellow brick road was? Follow your feelings. Follow your feelings. That whole movie was metaphysical. Follow your feelings. And you will always get to that Emerald City. The highest and best. Now, it doesn't mean she had a perfect trip. Doesn't mean everything went great all the way. But it was always for her highest good, and she was strengthened. More and more she did, the stronger she got. But the last one is my personal favorite. Follow the flow of the synchronicity of the universe. Once I make a decision, the universe opens the way. Doors start opening. Other doors start closing. And if you just follow the flow with grace and with ease, you'll always get to where you need to be. Every moment. You know, when this church came open, I'd never heard of Green Valley. I couldn't have found it on the map. Never been here before. Those of you that are laughing went through the same thing when you came here, right? But you know how the synchronicity of the universe works? I had a friend in Sedona that passed away, and their family invited me, flew me out to do the memorial service. And so Michael and I flew out, and I said, while we're there, we just happened to be there, let's drive down and check out Green Valley. Let's see what it's like. So we just happened to be here. We just happened to call the board and say, hey, we're going to be here. Can we have lunch? And they invited us to try out, and the rest is history. Do you see how the synchronicity works? Had we not been invited here for the memorial, we might not have checked out Green Valley. The flow of the universe will take you where you need to be, and the rest is always history. Life is so easy if we don't get in the way. How do we get in the way? Well, anybody here have a need to control? Yep, one honest, we always have one honest person.
She's the only one.
She's the only one, right? And control just messes up that flow, you know? I'm guilty of that. Fear and anxiety, oh, that's a big one. How can you hear God? How can you feel your heart if you're in fear and anxiety? You'll only hear the fear. Lack of trust in the one presence, the one power that you are one with, united with. There's a belief there in separation. Oh, I'm going to do this all by myself. There's no help. How will I do it? We are not alone. We're in union with God. Believe it, trust it, act on it. If you're comfortable, repeat with me. In union with God, I am guided on my journey. Together, in union with God, I am guided on my journey. I trust and act on my intuition. Together, I trust and act on my intuition. And let's take that into prayer. God, we are so willing to release and let go of our need to know how it's going to happen, how it's going to work, when's it going to happen. We just let that all go. We focus on the deep desires of our heart. And we call forth your living, loving presence to show us the way. Moment by moment, step by step, we move forward trusting totally in our union with God. And all that is needed is provided abundantly, gracefully, and joyfully. Thank you, Father, Mother God, in the deepest nature of the living Christ. And so it is, so it truly is. Amen.